All right, and just like that, we are back again with the Mind the Growth podcast. As always, I am Chris Kinghorn.
And I'm Eric Hoffman.
And today we have a very special guest. We have Miss Jillian Lopez of Jill. You gotta let us know what channel you're on. I'm missing this piece in my notes.
I'm on Channel 8, the CBS affiliate in Las Vegas.
Jill is, in my opinion, the best news anchor, broadcaster, all the above in Vegas. So everybody make sure to give her a follow, give her a shout out.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely.
We're excited to have you. You know what that means, Chris, right?
Oh, I think that means we need to do a little news team assemble.
News team assemble!
News team assemble!
And then we'll cut in that clip of Ron Burgundy doing the same thing.
I love it. That's a great way to kick it off.
We're gonna have to go straight to the editor on that one. So, Danny, you're gonna be busy for the first 30 seconds on this video.
So, Jillian,
cool.
How do you know Chris?
How appropriate to our college day stories have to be for this. I'm just kidding. We met at Arizona State. I spent most of my life in Vegas until I came to ASU, and I was lucky to meet Chris, and we were a part of such an awesome friend group, and we're all going to each other's weddings now, and it's kind of all come full circle. But yeah, Chris and I, we go back to our college days.
We do. Back at the Harvard of the West, as I keep referring to it.
I've never heard that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, let's dive straight into this. Jill, can you give us a little bit of your backstory, how you got into the news/entertainment industry?
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, I spent most of my life, I grew up in Las Vegas, and that was until I decided to go to ASU, the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism, one of the top journalism schools in the country, and I knew I wanted to go there. I've always known I wanted to study broadcast journalism, and it was the perfect school. It had a little bit of everything that I needed, so got my degree there, and actually my senior year, I was one of the first of 6 students chosen from the Cronkite School to go be part of a sports broadcast bureau out in Santa Monica. So I left Phoenix senior year, which was a really hard decision to make. But I ended up going out to Santa Monica, lived out there for 6 months, got to work alongside a few other students, and we were covering everything for Pac-12. We got to do some work with the Dodgers, the CIF, like so many cool opportunities, my senior year of school. So I did a lot of stuff in the sports world and actually thought maybe I would go that route, but I've always loved entertainment and lifestyle. So I knew I wanted to be that red carpet reporter. That was always my end goal. So I had done an internship back at the NBC station in Vegas during school. And when I graduated, a few months went by. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I called one of the anchors back there and told her I graduated and told her to keep me in mind if anything opened up. And there was actually a position there. So I actually started out as a producer. So I was behind the scenes, but I decided, you know what? I want to get my foot in the door this way. A lot of people go to Yuma, Arizona, or Bakersfield, California, these really small markets to get experience and then move up from there. But I just was really hoping I was going to skip that step, and I was lucky to do that. So started out as a producer. I worked for 3 years. I got up every morning at 3 a.m. I did the 4 a.m. shift. That was hard. But I would go in on the weekends and I would film other segment ideas that I had. And I knew I wanted to be in front of the camera. So I practiced for months and months and months. And I went to our news director. I showed him what I had done, and he let me have my own segment on our morning show. So that was kind of my transition into being in front of the camera. And ever since then, I kind of have worked my way up throughout different stations out here in Vegas. And now I'm kind of in my somewhat dream role. So I'm really happy.
That's awesome. So, Jillian, tell me, is this something, because when I think back to like my childhood, kids, I wanted to be an astronaut. I didn't quite get there yet, but there's still time. Chris always wanted to be a podcast host ever since he was 6 years old. He's reached that goal.
I feel like I made it. Yeah.
Yeah. So is this something that you dreamed of like as a kid, or was it more once you became an adult, this was the vision that you had for yourself?
I was one of the lucky ones. I knew since I was probably 13 or 14 years old. In high school, I would anchor our morning news show that we had. Our school was Palo Verde, so we had PVTV. So I was the host of that. I always
Clever.
knew. Yeah, it was good. I still I'll always remember it. So I was really lucky. I knew from a young age that this is what I wanted to do. I'm a strong believer in manifesting, putting it out into the universe. I told anyone and everyone, and I believe that there was something in that kind of got me to where I was now. So that's why I started looking at good journalism schools for college. And I am fortunate that, I still love it all these years later. So I have to honestly pinch myself sometimes that I used to say I wanted to do these things and now I'm actually doing them. So it's insane to me.
That's amazing. Not a lot of people get to have that manifestation become reality. So bravo.
Thank you.
Jill, so you said, I guess if we take a step back to the 3 a.m. days and kind of fast forwarding to now where you're currently at, can you just give us a day in the life? What does a day in the life of Jillian Lopez look like?
Yes, back then it was going to bed at 8 p.m. Monday through Friday and getting up at 3 a.m., working from 4 to 1, taking a nap to try to be a normal human being. But now I have the ideal schedule. I've come a long way. So the show that I host is on from 3 to 4 p.m., not AM. And I'm actually a part-time host with this company, which is actually really great. I can kind of show up, do my thing, go home and work on my other projects, which is the dream. So basically on a busy day, let's say if I'm hosting the show at 3 p.m., I usually get to the station by noon or so to start prepping. Seems like 3 hours, might be a lot, but it honestly flies by leading up to the show. So we get into the station, we find out what guests we're having on the show that day. I write, all of my intros and my questions, and we work up all of our entertainment stories. So the whole show is lifestyle and entertainment. So it's fun, it's lighthearted. I'm really lucky that I could never do the hard news, and it's too sad and depressing, and I give them a lot of credit, but that's not for me. So I host the show from 3 to 4, and then usually for an hour or so after the show, we do a post meeting and we cut all of our segments for social media. And it would be great if that was just kind of the day-to-day, but usually I'm doing extra shoots in the morning for our special interviews. I'm very lucky that I get to go to a lot of the cool events that happen in our city when a restaurant is opening or a new show has come to the Strip. And so usually after the show, I rush home, I do an outfit change. I always joke that I feel like I'm living out of my car because I have 6 pairs of shoes ready to go. You never know what's going to come up. So usually every day is different. Which is good and bad, hard to plan sometimes, but basically it's just being camera ready, preparing every day for the next interviews. And usually after a big interview, I go home, I look back at the video, I write out my script, I send all my edits to an editor, they put it together into a piece, and then it'll run in the show the next day or later that week. So it's a lot of steps going through the motions. But yeah, every day's different, but for the most part, that's kind of how it looks.
So 2-part question for you. First, I'm curious if you can give us maybe the top 2 or 3 people that you've interviewed so far. And with regards to the restaurants that are opening up in Vegas, let's hear some recommendations of what's up and coming, because Chris and I are both self-proclaimed foodies, and we want to know what's good to eat in Vegas.
Well, I got you, but I will tell you guys I'm a very picky eater. So my husband loves when he gets to be my +1 because he eats all of the food that I don't eat. Yeah. So I go a lot by his recommendations. Yeah, what he likes. I'm very simple, but it's funny. A lot of celebrities now, that's the thing out in Vegas. Everyone has a restaurant. I mean, Gordon Ramsay has so many, Bobby Flay, Lisa Vanderpump, Martha Stewart is opening her first restaurant here. Like, it's so crazy what's been going going on here right now. I actually went to a recent restaurant opening. It's a RPM Italian. It just opened at Caesars. They have locations in Chicago and DC, but they brought it out to Vegas. And I think it's really cool when these restaurants open in Vegas. They always have things that are unique to Las Vegas, so you can only get them on the menu here. But yeah, I'm a huge Italian foodie, so that one is fresh in my mind because I just went there. My go-to restaurant is always Beauty and Essex at Cosmopolitan. I don't know if you guys have been there. They have it in LA and I think New York too. Yeah. So lots of foodie places. If you have specific ones, I'll keep thinking for you. But you really can't go wrong. There's so many restaurants right now. It's so crazy. And as far as maybe a few of my favorites that I've interviewed, you guys are actually catching me at a really great time because the last 2 months have been absolutely insane. It's like Vegas is officially open and everyone wants to go crazy all at once. So it's been a lot. But in the last 2 months or so, I've gotten to cover a lot of award shows, which is just always fun. I love doing the ACMs, the Country Music Awards, because country singers are always the most genuine, down to earth. They take the time to really talk with you, and I really love that. I did a TikTok dance with Walker Hayes. He's the guy that sings the fancy like Applebee song, and he was so fun. And he was I put him on the spot, and we did the dance together, and that was really cool. But I have to say, I think I reached my career peak about 2 weeks ago when I got to interview Keanu Reeves, Robert De Niro, Rachel McAdams, like all in one day. My mind is still spinning from that. And Keanu Reeves is a beautiful man, but a beautiful person too. So there's been a lot, but I'm telling you, those I never in a million years thought, wow, I'm going to be on a red carpet. Like I turn around and Robert De Niro is there and they tell me, his publicist goes, okay, one question, we're in a hurry. And I'm like, what is one question that you would ask Robert De Niro?
And everyone's
so I don't even know what I said. Yeah. So it's been pretty crazy, but I've been very lucky. And yeah, I would have to say Keanu Reeves and I'm a huge, Mean Girls, The Notebook, like those are my movies. So meeting Rachel McAdams too was really cool.
That's awesome. Keanu, he's a great guy. All the way
great
around.
Guy. He really was.
Well, so what's great about this is Eric and I actually have a question about what would you consider making it within the industry, or if there is some sort of threshold with making it with the industry. Was this your making it? Was that the just for the self-fulfillment of the meeting?
Yeah, you have those moments where you're like, I've always kind of dreamed of this. And even doing those first few, red carpet award shows and stuff, I always just said, I'm going to be a red carpet reporter. And everyone's like, yeah, cool. And then you actually do it. And so I have to kind of take a step back and be like, okay, like this is what I always dreamed of and wanted. But I'm sure you guys can relate. It's great to hit those milestones, but then you're already just thinking about like, okay, where am I going from here? What's next? And sometimes you wonder, when is it enough? Or when is it like, okay, we're good. I feel like I'm just scratching the surface, but on the flip side of it, yeah, I think interviewing, those few like A list celebrities was a moment where I was like, you know what? I'm doing something right.
But it also seems like Vegas it's always been, I don't want to call it necessarily a secondary market. It is compared to in LA in a sense, but it's definitely becoming more and more of a primary market. You guys have major sports teams there. It looks like you're getting more as well too. So it's an exciting place for you to be in, it seems like.
Yeah, so much is happening. Everyone from LA is coming out here, whether that be moving out here to live or just for work, and especially in my industry. And yeah, it's so cool. We're becoming a sports town, and we had the draft here. Again, growing up here, we never had a team to root for or anything, like just the atmosphere of a game day experience. And now, I mean, between hockey and football and we're getting hopefully Major League Baseball, it's just, we're on a roll, and it's such a fun time to be in Vegas, that's for sure.
You're just going to keep stealing Oakland's teams.
Yeah. Yes, I know. I'm like, I don't know if it's really working out for us, but we're trying.
I have a follow-on question to what Chris was asking before, because I'm actually curious, when somebody like yourself goes into, let's say, like entertainment hosting or that sort of work, the way I would think about it, is there like a peak or premiere situation that you would think for yourself? For instance, if I were to name a couple of people, I would think like a Ryan Seacrest or like a Maria Menounos or something like that is where people like you may want to reach at some point. Are there people that you look up to like that, or is that something you think about in terms of goal setting?
100%. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. You know, the Ryan Seacrest, the Maria Menounos of the world, those are the dream. But I had a moment this week, actually. I met my work idol, my TV idol that I have looked up to my whole life. And Juliana Rancic is her name. She used to be on E for years and years before Maria Menounos, actually. And she and her husband are the owners of RPM Italian, that I was just telling you about. So I had the opportunity to interview them just a few days ago. And they always say, like, don't meet your heroes. But I have to tell you, like, I was in a dream. She was the most amazing person I've ever met. She took the time. She gave me all of her career advice, and she's had such a successful career. So getting that opportunity to talk to her one-on-one was a dream come true. And her husband was amazing. So I sat there, we drank Prosecco, we ate pasta. I was sitting talking to my work idol. I was just like, what is happening right now? So yes, there are people that I have always looked up to, but I also feel like this industry has changed a lot and is continuing to change. That it's kind of fun. New people keep popping up left and right. Everyone's kind of doing their thing. So I try to really, study the work of those that I look up to, but also try to stay true to myself, if that makes sense. So yeah, working towards those bigger, like hosting shows and those more, not as much localized, but more network wise, that would probably be the real dream.
And have you noticed, is there a shift in the mindset of some of your colleagues to go more towards, let's say, like a social media personality versus being on like Entertainment Tonight? Is there more of a priority towards the social media these days, or is it still like I want to get to an Entertainment Tonight hosting position or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of
Yeah.
both. And I think people who have been in the industry for a while, who went through it the very traditional ways, are very true to that and climbing the ladder that way, which there's nothing wrong with that. I just personally think it is important to kind of think outside of the box now. Everyone's a content creator. I mean, you can, go on your phone and go on Instagram and TikTok and record a video. Anyone can be a newscaster at this point. And sometimes I think about that a little bit, especially with celebrities now. If there's a story going around about them and they need to clear it up, they don't need to go on an Entertainment Tonight and sit down and tell their story. They can do a post and clear the air and everyone can see it, within a minute of posting it. So sometimes I wonder if there's still that need for exactly what I do. But on the flip side of it, I think that this industry is just changing. We kind of have to evolve with that. And it's still nice to kind of have that credibility of being attached to a network or a name. And then I think and I hope that people then would trust more on social media that it's coming from a reliable source. So yeah, I think it's an interesting time in my world right now to figure out which path to take. And I'm hoping there's a way to just do it, both of them, and morph them together.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was kind of curious of kind of the network effect versus the social media presence. Is there, if your end goal is to get to the end of the race, is it quicker to, if it was traditionally going through the network effect and working your way up, now you've got this whole avenue of social media. So is it a balancing act? Is it focusing on one more so than the other?
Yeah, I think it's a balancing act. And I think honestly now the focus is probably even a little bit more on the social media side, but on the flip side, I'm doing an interview on my show and then I'm cutting it down to the 3 minutes, and if maybe someone's not turning on the TV to watch for the whole hour show, then that's used across social media, and I wouldn't have that content if it weren't for the news programs. So I think it's just all learn as we go and see what works and what doesn't. But yeah, it's a tough spot to be in because I want to be in both worlds, and I'm hoping I can have the best of both worlds. But yeah, you kind of have to balance of what's important and where everything is headed,
Plus, I mean, you're appearing on some of the most prestigious podcasts in the country right now, so that can only supercharge your career, as far as I'm concerned.
That's right. You guys are going to elevate me to the next level. But no, seriously, you guys, it's so weird to be on the other side. I'm so used to the one
Yeah.
preparing questions and like, so it's really fun to be on this side. But thank you guys. And you guys are doing it too. You've created your own platform. And I think that's what's so cool about podcasts now is that you can talk openly, have conversation, and it doesn't have to be so, strategic and so like newsy anymore. We're just talking. And so I give you guys a lot of credit. This is really
Yeah,
awesome.
and there's no one telling two people who don't know anything that they're talking about that we can't do it. So that we got that going for us also.
We're just gonna
Yeah.
ignore the comments. But Jill, so as we transition into kind of your side project you had mentioned, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing, who you're doing it with, what was the thought behind it? What was the ambition behind it?
Yeah, so about a year ago now, my sister and I decided that we have always wanted to work together, and the timing was just kind of right. After the pandemic, too, I think everyone realized that you should be your own boss because you can get let go in a heartbeat and your company doesn't care and move on. So that is what happened to me in my previous job. Is there were the huge layoffs, everyone went through it, and we were all very caught off guard. We got a call, said, sorry, today's your last day, your emails will be shut off in an hour, see you later. And so I think that really put into perspective, you know what, like I'm going to be in charge of my own journey from here. And that's why even this job at Channel 8 now is part-time. And so they said, you know what, we understand you have other projects, like do your thing, we support you. So my sister's background is in social media and PR and marketing, and obviously with my background in TV, and again, going back to the conversation of where social media is headed, we kind of thought, you know what, like let's bring our skills together and run a social media company, but it's kind of twofold. So together, we have some shared clients where we manage their social media pages, and that's content creation. We work with a few restaurants, one of the performing arts centers out here. So still all in that entertainment and lifestyle world. So we do those together. And then on the flip side, for the last year, we've been building up a YouTube channel. So we have been interviewing people in the community. When I have guests on my show, I get 2.5 minutes with them, and they're there to promote an event, and then that's it. And I would talk to these people that would come in and out of our shows all the time. Of a friend of mine who runs a bunch of gyms out here, and he's walking out and telling me, I was a meth addict and I was in jail and I slept in my car before I ever started this company. And I'm like, these are the stories that I would want to hear. So kind of similar to a podcast, I wanted to do something more long form and have those open conversations. And so Miranda's my sister. She and I decided, you know what, we're going to do this together. She kind of taught me more of the social media world. I taught her more of the interviewing world. And so we have a little black and white couch. It's like very tiny. It folds up into my car. We bring the couch with us everywhere we go for our interview. That's kind of our shtick. We have a videographer team that we bring in, so it's all beautiful content. And that couch has been to the Nobu Villa at Caesars. It's been to a cafe. It's been to a drag brunch. Like, we bring the couch everywhere. So we've been holding on to our interviews, but we're about to do a big launch in the next month, and kind of dabble into that YouTube world, which that is its own beast in itself. But that's kind of how I'm positioning myself to get into that world a little bit more. And we just thought it would be fun to kind of have something that sets us apart, since we are actually sisters. So it's been a slow build. I've learned a lot of starting a company and getting the LLC and the business license, all this stuff that I would have never known before. But we've come a long way in the last year, and I think this year is really going to be our year to take off. So we're really excited about it, and I think we're on to something.
Well, we're excited to hear. Yeah, we're excited to see it. We're gonna have to, if everybody watching, we're gonna have a link down below to Jill's channel as well too. So check it out.
Thank you. Yes.
So
YouTube is crazy.
if I understood correctly, the company is basically two tiers. It's a like for-profit social media management system, as well as a content play for YouTube and other social media. So long term, are you looking to grow that to a certain size, or is this just, mainly going to be a side project, or what is the end goal with it from your perspective?
Yeah, the end goal is definitely to focus on this long term. I think everyone now is watching all of the streaming shows and the Netflix and the Hulu and the Prime, and I really think that's where we're
Mhm.
headed, even on the news side of things and how anyone's going to get their information anymore. So I think long term, she and I would love to really have our own streaming show and have that be our main source of income. That's why with YouTube, I'm hoping to bring in the right people who know how YouTube works, how to monetize it, how to manage it. I want to do it right from the beginning. And I think it's great. YouTube a long time ago really did just start out as a blog purpose, and people just happened to blow up and go viral. And now, though, I really see it as more of a business opportunity, at least for my sister and I. So, yeah, I really like the more long form, in depth conversation. I think people are like, documentaries are having a moment
Mhm.
again, and again podcasts, and like I really think we're headed that way of just talking openly and not having to limit ourselves to a 3-minute piece anymore. So that is the goal. We would love to have the Social Sisters streaming show one day, and you guys will have to come on our couch as our
Gladly.
guests. The roles will
The
be
black and white
reversed.
couch sounds extremely comfortable, so we'll look forward to that.
It, I don't know how comfortable it is, but it's
Yeah,
cute, and that's all
exactly,
that matters.
exactly. So,
Count me in.
one additional question I have, with you being the expert in, hosting and interviewing, and your sister being the expert in the social media stuff, can you tell us and the listeners what's the number one thing you told your sister to focus on in terms of being in front of the camera, and what's the number one thing she shared with you about social media?
Great question. Great question. As far as social media, what she shared with me as the number one thing is
Mhm.
consistency, which I feel like is very important in any industry. But if you are not constantly posting every single day in people's faces, reminding them that you're there, the way the algorithms and everything work, you will get lost. And sometimes, even personally, I think, oh my gosh, am I annoying people? Well, even with my own brand of putting things out every day. But that's just how it works now. And that's the only way that she has seen success. She has some of her own clients on the side too, is that consistent 1 to 2 posts a day across all platforms. I mean, it really is a job in itself now with social media. So that's been something that she and I are focusing on for ourselves as well. We have our own combined Social Sisters pages. So consistency is just so key when it comes to social media. And then on the flip side of it with TV, luckily she does musical theater, and she's on stage and she sings, she performs, so she at least knows how to
To
carry herself
entertain.
through. But yes. But my advice to her and anyone when they ask for advice is I really just think it comes down to authenticity. People can see through you very quickly if you are being fake and not genuine. And again, I think that applies in life normally, anyways. But when it comes to interviewing, and that's something I've learned over time, because you get so caught up on what are the questions I'm going to ask. Like, I want to make sure I get all the information right. And when you think about it, in normal conversation, it just free flows. You just talk, you bounce off of each other. And I think that is the biggest thing, because if you try to be fake and create this persona, like at some point that's going to wear off. So I told my sister as we go into these interviews, like, I know you're a little bit nervous, and you guys do a great job too of kind of going back and forth. You don't want to talk over the other one. It's hard with two people asking questions.
We're
Yeah.
slacking each other back and forth so we
We're
don't talk
cheating.
over
Okay,
one
that's
another.
smart, but like
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. It's just flowing. So I think it just comes down to being yourself, staying, trying to just feel as normal as possible. And it's hard when you have the lights in your face and there's 3 cameras and you have your mic on. But we've really worked together to kind of mesh our skills into one. And at the end of the day, they kind of go hand in hand
Nice.
anyways.
It's good teamwork.
Perfect. So if we look at, I'm trying to think if I want to go news or no. Okay. All right. So if we look at the Social Sisters in 5 years from now, what in the most idealistic way does that look like to you? Where would you love to see yourself and your sister and the company as a whole in 5 years from now?
I think twofold. One, in the sense of I really want to get into that streaming world. I want to monetize on YouTube. I want to have this space where we're having these open conversations, and I really see it being something that catches on. I think Miranda and I live kind of exciting lives too, day to day, just because it's so different all the time, that I would really love to show that kind of like behind the scenes world of it all. I don't think there's a lot of platforms that show our side of it, if that makes sense. You always see the end result in any of these talk shows or reality shows or whatever it may be. So I would really love to welcome in people to seeing the prep and thinking of how we are getting our guests, and you guys know how it goes. So I see it building into something that welcomes people into our world. And I also I've always wanted to just share stories, be a storyteller. I mean, I took a documentary class at ASU, and that even opened up my eyes to longer form content. And we had to pick a subject and, focus our whole semester learning about this person that we were going to highlight and what our story was going to be for the documentary. So I really I keep going back to documentaries, but I just love watching. I mean, even, everyone was talking about the Fire Festival and like all of that, because it's so interesting to hear the story from beginning to end. So long term, I really hope that the Social Sisters can turn into something more like that and be something that's really
shout out
meaningful.
to our boy Billy McFarland, who just got out of prison.
Yeah, he was in for like 4 years or something. Now he's out. I'm like, what?
Can't wait to see what he cooks up next. But putting Billy aside, do you have a target person that you would want to interview with the Social Sisters, or like what type of I'm trying to word it the best way. What type of person, interviewee would you want to target? Is it just somebody with an interesting story, or is there more criteria that you look at?
Yeah, I think right now as we're getting started, especially in our Vegas community, most people don't realize it's very tight knit. Everyone kind of knows everyone, but again, we all kind of know each other on the surface level. So at least beginning right now, we're just really interested in, people in the Vegas community that have still kind of made a name for themselves, but how did they get to where they are has kind of been our angle. But ideally, long term, I would still love to stay in that celebrity focused world. I've always enjoyed reading the magazines and all the gossip and all that, but I always wanted to be that person that actually told the truth and shared the stories. And you always hear, fake news and like one-sided and all this stuff, and like I just never want to be like that. So I still think down the road I would love, entertainers, athletes, just people that are still in the public eye, but that you might not get to know them that well, even on their social media, unless you watch their interview with the Social Sisters.
Okay.
So yes, the goal is still kind of those.
All right.
Those
So
here
we go. I'm going to put you on the spot. One actor / actress, one sports icon, and one, what's the third that I was thinking of? One, let's say musician.
Artist.
Top three in those, or one person in each of those categories that you would love to interview.
Categories. Okay, you are putting me on the spot here. I got to think through. Let's go. Let's work backwards here. Musician, or I guess she kind of falls into every category, but I got to say, I'm a huge Jennifer Lopez fan, and
Jenny
I like to think I'm related to her.
Good choice.
There's got to be some tie-in. Yes. And I tell everyone I'm J-Lo. That's actually my license plate on my car. I hope no one looks that up and can find where I live. I put that out there now. So anyways, I've always loved Jennifer Lopez, and I actually have interviewed her once on the red carpet, but it was very quickly and she was not in a good mood, and I want to give her another chance. I feel like she's been through so much. Selena is my number one favorite movie of all time. And she looks better with age, and at 50 years old, she's in the prime of her life. And I just feel like we see some of her, and she's always kind of been in the public eye with her relationships, but she's been through so much, especially with her relationships, that I really want to know the real Jennifer Lopez. And I really want to know what she eats on a daily basis, because she looks freaking amazing. But I always Jennifer Lopez is my girl. So I would really love a sit down, long form moment with her. So I'm going to put her in the musician category, but I feel like she kind of goes across everything. Okay, next up. actor, actress movies. I'm thinking maybe like a dream person would be like a Leonardo
Leo.
DiCaprio.
Classic.
And I think he is so talented. But also, I mean, he was ripped off for so many years of winning an Academy Award. And I think that I would love
to fight
know,
a bear
like,
to win it.
if that ever really got him down. Yeah, like how did he literally like I would just love to know like what was going through his head. I think people could actually learn a lot from him because every year it's like he's snubbed. I mean, Titanic, come on. So I would love to sit down with Leonardo DiCaprio, and he's just pretty to look at. So that's a win-win for me. Okay, let me think about sports. I mean, honestly, the Golden Knights out here in Vegas, you know, the team was the first expansion team in however many years out here in 2017. And in our community, the very first home game, they actually played the Coyotes. And I worked for the Coyotes when I went to ASU, so I've always liked the Coyotes. But anyways, the first home Golden Knights game was 3 or 4 days after our October 1 shooting out here. So the city was just in mourning, and it was the worst time ever. And so it was a big thing of, you know, are we going to do this first home game? Like, it was just the worst time ever. And so that first game, all of the players came out on the ice. They gave this incredible speech. They honored all of the nurses and doctors and everyone that supported on October 1. And that team ever since then has really united our city. And I have always wanted to sit down with Derek England was our kind of star player for years. I know him vaguely on a surface level, but he is what our city kind of attributes to holding everything together. He's the one that got on the ice and said, "We are Vegas strong." And like everyone in the crowd was in tears. And it was just this like such an emotional moment in sports and in Las Vegas that I would just love to like have a one-on-one with him of like leading up to those days of how he processed like this was supposed to be the coolest thing that ever happened in Vegas, and then it was kind of overshadowed by the worst thing that's ever happened in Vegas. So again, I think like going a little bit deeper into that, especially everyone out here in Vegas would really appreciate. So that's kind of the first three that come to mind, but I'm sure I have like a laundry list in the back of my head.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to figure out how to get a hold of J-Lo.
Out there to get with Leo and see what we can do.
Please do, and then you can come along for the interview.
I think at this point I'm Eric's people. So Eric, I don't know how far or how much success we're gonna have with that, but I'll put some feelers out.
I appreciate it.
Jill, so obviously you are big in Vegas, and we love that. We love to see the enthusiasm about the city. So from somebody who's a resident there, what's a day in the life or kind of a weekend look like for a resident of Vegas? Because when I think Vegas, I think, you know, the strip, not necessarily strip clubs, but the strip,
Chris,
clubs, party.
We're getting
the clubs on the strip, not the strip clubs. No. The clubs that are on the strip, etc. To me, that's Vegas. I mean, you know, a lot of nice restaurants, etc. But from an outsider, that's kind of how it's looked at. So, Jill, where should we be going on the weekends? What's the right way to do Vegas?
Yeah, well, you know, we've spent some of those weekends together out here with our friends, sure. And it's fun. It's fun when you live here and you do get to have those kinds of weekends because I really do feel like I'm on vacation, and it's 10 minutes, you know, away from my house, so it is kind of nice to be able to go home and lay down in my own bed every night, but I can still feel like I'm partying it up with you guys. But you know, everyone who lives out here, it's kind of like, oh, like, do you hate the strip? Do you like going to the strip? And I like a happy medium. I don't need to be down there all the time. But I will say that when you want a night out, you want to get dressed up, like that's the way to do it. You're going to have to, you know, spend a little money. That's why we don't do it a lot, because no matter what, any of these restaurants you go to, you know, it's going to be a fortune. But like, I'm not just going to excess on a Wednesday night, you know, it's like that has to be for a special occasion. So, I mean, a day in the life, even when I went to that restaurant opening, you know, I walked through the Forum shops and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is such a far walk. Like, and then I found out there was a valet so much closer. And I'm like, okay, see, like when you live here, you don't even know because you don't spend that much time in the casinos. But especially in the summer too, you know, I think it's important to spend time out by the pools, whether that's at a casino or in our own backyard. There's always new restaurants. We have a ton of shows. All of our, like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Absinthe or any of the Spiegel World shows, but those are like having a moment here in Vegas, and they're raunchy and they're dirty
right up Chris's
and they're
alley.
fun and like very adult humor. Yes. Chris would love it.
We can go to brunch and go see a show.
Yes, and I mean, but now I'm at the point where it's like I need a nap in between brunch and the show, or I'm not making it till 10 p.m. But yeah, I'm very lucky that there's always something. And whether, you know, I love a good brunch, whether we're doing bottomless or we're going to these restaurants or we're going to a show or shopping, or, you know, we have a AAA baseball team that's in Summerlin, the area that I grew up. So I'm going to baseball games now, like, and I mean, you know, Golden Knights games or concerts. I'm going to a concert tonight. Like sometimes I need a moment. I'm like, I need to just be in a cocoon and stay home, but it's hard. There's always something to do and I feel like I'm missing out.
Yeah.
It's because you're a social sister.
I have to be social. It's my job. That's what I tell myself.
So who's playing tonight?
Yes. Well, it's going to be my sister and I, and probably all the 16-year-old girls going to see Olivia Rodrigo. She's at the Cosmopolitan, but we love her, and we're just going to embrace it.
That sounds awesome.
So, Jill, one question we like to ask everybody, kind of shifting away from the career, the aspirations, the jokes, something a little bit more serious is, what does the word growth mean to you? Geez, I'm butchering the hell out of this. What does the word growth mean to you? Can we get that edited out real quick? This might be the clip that we run before we start this.
Hey, I'm used to editing. It's a beautiful thing. You can put it together and no one will ever know. What does growth mean to me? And that is a loaded question. I think overall, if I had to answer specifically to myself, growth, I would say, is just kind of taking those strides to being a better overall person. Obviously, you know, a promotion or a raise, or in my case, like winning an Emmy one day, like all of that would equal to growth in my career, and it would make me very happy. But I think what really makes you grow as a human being and as a person is just kind of finding that happiness in every day. I think I've spent so many years worrying about what's next and what, you know, where's my career going to take me? And like, you know, that question of where are you going to be in 5 years? But like, I personally have harped so much on what's next, instead of just kind of living in the now. And I think I finally have kind of come down to earth of enjoying the moment. And to me, that is like a huge growth for me, because I'm not as stressed about, you know, weeks in the future. Like, it's so important to live in the now. And so I think growth is just finding those strides, finding that happiness, and like having that in your everyday life. Like, that's what has, in my opinion, kind of makes you like a grown up of like, okay, I'm good. I don't have to stress. It's going to be okay. So that's just kind of how I see growth overall. I think it goes hand in hand with career and personal life, but I think it just comes down to finding that happiness.
Great answer. Mm-hmm. That's
sorry, I got deep with you guys.
Looking for.
No, that's Great. Good. That's perfect. So we've seen all of my transitions throughout this.
And we're saving
not the best. So Jill, with your skill set that you have, can you sign us off?
I told you guys you were awesome. You never talked over each other. I'm very impressed by you. So, okay, let's do a sign off. Okay. Each of you like say your name and I'll say my name at the end and I'll close it out. So like normally it would be like reporting, I'm Chris.
And I'm Eric Hoffman.
I am Chris Kinghorn.
And I'm Jillian Lopez. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.